welcome. There's an internationally award-winning Hindi film about that unmentionable term, women's sexuality. Similar to films like Fire and Water, Lipstick Under My Burqa is about women searching for personal and sexual freedom. It was blocked from Indian theatres last year by the National Censor Board, even as it ratcheted up awards at global film festivals. This means that it's only been watched by those who live in countries that do not have to deal with the problems that this film addresses the way we do in India. Now, the Censor Board's objection was that, and I quote, it was a lady-oriented film. By that logic, on We the People Tonight, we're asking, why are Indian films on sex and sexuality only gent-oriented? In an age of hypersexuality, when item songs are now family entertainment, what are we so afraid of when it comes to women's sexuality? Why is this still the conversation that nobody wants to have? Ratna Pataksha, I want to start with you. You're one of the protagonists in this film. You play an older woman, she's 50 years old, and it's a coming-of-age film about her self-discovery, about herself emotionally and sexually, right? Were you surprised by the objections of the Censor Board, or the grounds that they objected that it was a lady-oriented film?
Well, I thought we would have trouble. I didn't imagine that the Censor Board is going to be delighted with a film like this and say, of course, let's show it to everyone. I thought we'd have some cuts, but an outright ban? That was a huge surprise, yes.
Ekta, you're the distributor of this film, so you've come on board at a later stage. You're known to be a shrewd businesswoman, so you think this film will touch a chord. I mean, was it a gamble for you?
So, when Prakashji called me up and said, watch the film, I really didn't expect to see a film which was so inclusive. I was expecting it to be a little, for the lack of a better word, art house, boring and slightly pretentious. And I saw the movie, and here I was having a blast. It was conversations I've had with friends. It's conversations that we probably have behind closed doors. It's women we've known. And it's situations that I knew of women of various age groups had gone through. At that moment, frankly, it was something I wanted to do. I mean, I was told constantly, I had to have a meeting later with my film team, and I was told that this film will not even cover its distribution costs. So why would you do it? I said, if I like the film, and I'm a fairly smart cinegoer, I like watching good films, and I don't have any biases on a type of film. I can watch a Rohit Shetty film with as much entertainment as I can watch a Anurag Kashyap film. So I'm like, I think it's an entertaining film, and I don't want to categorize it. And since I think most of us usually go through this putting into boxes, I felt this film shouldn't be put into a box.
Okay, so if anyone understands the pulse of India, it's Ekta Kapoor. So Rahul, I'm going to go across to you. She says this is an inclusive film. It talks about women that we know. So this whole concept of no sex please where Indian is nonsense, right? So why should we not talk openly about women and sexuality?
Every movie, every socio-cultural debate has a narrative to it. I'm a proud right-winger. We don't agree with the feminist narrative of this liberalism. We feel sexuality should have a framework, and the framework should be of family. That's the whole narrative we are proposing. As a counter to feminism, our narrative is familism. And we believe that kind of a family system where sexual liberty is given less importance and sexual responsibility and family values and ethical responsibility is having more framework. And if you are going to get sex out of the framework, it is going to have a social collapse. This is the humble premise we are going to look for. We are not the ultra-orthodox people, but we believe everything should have a Lakshmana Rekha, because if you are going to cross that Lakshmana Rekha, it will go to a social collapse. That's the whole narrative we are putting forward. Where
social collapse for whom?
Social collapse of the society. And if you look at the Europe,
but what's
Europe
wrong
is
with
suffering
social
from
collapse? Change.
No change. That's the whole issue. When you are going for a collapse, we cannot justify it by calling it change. Just one line. Look at Europe. What's Europe facing? Because of the collapse of family, they are having a skewed demography. They are having a skewed population collapse. They are thinking about revitalizing family, and they are even giving incentives to have more family and more kids. So we need to have a family system where we can balance with the freedom. Nobody is against it.
What I find ironic is that when women are molested in Bangalore, we blame the West. Now we're looking at the West and saying, look at them, look at us.
But hold on. And they are coming
now,
back.
Zara, Rahul is saying this unleashing of sexuality is going to prove detrimental, right? My question is detrimental for who? Because it seems like there's a status quo and we don't want to break that status quo. So one of the biggest myths that we have, the most problematic myths, is that women don't enjoy sex or don't have sex drive equal to men. Is that true?
So yes, I wrote a book which is called Her Book of Erotica, and the reason why we went on to write about this subject is because women and their desires, especially in our country, was something that we always wanted to discuss behind the curtains, behind bars, closed rooms discussions, the girls' gang discussions, if I may say so, right? And I really wanted to bring that out because I don't see a reason why women should feel ashamed or shy of discussing about their desires, because if men can, then so can women. Right. So Rahul said that, it demolishes the society or the family theory that we have in our society. I think the society theory has come up in the recent past, right? If you dig into the history, I think people were much more open discussing it. If you go back to the architecture or the scriptures that we have in our country, women used to enjoy their sexual drive as much as men did. Right? It's we and our theories that have complicated the whole thing and have put women under this circumstance where they have to live dual lives. Like a wife cannot really go up and tell her husband that I am not really very happy with you, and she still has a desire for another man. That complicates life, that complicates society. Had you kept it open for a woman to discuss, maybe a lot of marriages were saved, maybe a lot of relationships were saved.
Prakash, you're the producer of this film, right? The irony is that the censor board called this a fantasy film. So it's basically saying that the premise of this film that you've made and you've invested so much in doesn't exist. The women don't have sexuality.
You know, I didn't decide to produce this film because it was a film on women's sexuality. I decided to produce this film because it was a beautiful story. And as a filmmaker, I'm interested in all stories, social, political, individual. And this indeed was a very beautiful story about 4 women who, are having great fun negotiating their little liberties, freedom, desires, not only about sexuality, but about their career, about their life, about their choices. We bring up women right from their childhood. We indoctrinate them in a manner that they are able to serve us, that they are decent, that they can take all that shit, that they can, keep quiet about all the oppression, that they can, be useful for us. If, she can produce children and have a job at the same time and manage them, then that's fantastic. We treat women as, as we would treat pets. And here was a film, here was a story where these beautiful women were talking about their little things, lives, their, sexuality is an important part of our life, and that of course forms the important part of this film. That's, for me, that's coincidental. But yes, when we talk about this debate, it's so impossible for a woman to talk to her husband or her in-laws or anyone else about, the such an important aspect of her life, about her sexuality, her desires or her fulfillment, or it's almost impossible. She has to live through it and die through it.
But Prakash talks about indoctrination, the fact that we have a double standard when it comes to our boys, our sons and our daughters. You call yourself a men's activist. Sex, it seems, is a prerogative of men. Men can have recreational sex, but women can only have it for procreation. As a woman, don't you think there's a double standard in that?
No, I think it's a myth again created. Feminism is to a great extent destroying our country. Now, while making such movies, we are just increasing the premarital sex, and the adultery and the extramarital affairs will increase, and then again the fake cases will come on men, which men are only going to bear. It was just a verbal allegation from a woman's side, and the consequences a man has to bear. So why can't we inculcate the value system? Why can't we follow our culture? The Indian culture is so rich. What is the problem in portraying women, in objectifying women?
First of all, Bollywood is a reflection of society. Ratna, would you like to come in here? You're talking about objectification of women. Isn't there enough of that already in Bollywood? Isn't that the irony of this?
Does anyone disagree? Yes. I'll give you an example. I went to a friend's daughter's wedding, and as part of the Sangeet, there was this little girl, an 8-year-old girl, who came on stage completely decked up and danced to Sheila Ki Jawani. and there was a large band of middle-aged men. I tell you, the look on their faces was scary. That is part of our accepted culture. I question it. I question many things about our accepted culture, as I think all of us should. I think culture is not a static construct. It's a constantly evolving construct, and it should be. Culture reflects all our lives. And as we can see right here, look at the number of young people around. They definitely are going to be exposed to various kinds of culture, and they will have to make up their own minds about it. So how do you help young people to make up minds unless you give them a variety of information along with guidance, along with thought-provoking discussion, and then we arrive at what culture is for all of us.
But at the same time, when we are just destroying our family system, the kids are not with the parents, and then they are not together to sit and discuss their problems, and that is why there is a lot of family breakage.
I would say that films reflect what's happening in society, and studies have shown that people are having more sex, whether it's premarital or whether it's extramarital. The fact is, it is happening.
And whether it's hidden or obvious.
We are increasing it.
Just, if I can add, I agree with man's irony part, but what's the counter irony? These actresses who take million rupees for doing an item dance, after doing an item dance, cry that we are being commodified. We are being objectified. After taking a million rupees for doing an item dance, see, you cannot have it both ways. The only humble thing is, see, we have to see in a context of culture or legitimacy or anything. And I would request everyone, especially young girls, to read Ariel Levy. She is not an Indian, so you cannot call her an Indian right-winger. She is an American journalist. She wrote a very interesting book called 2005, The Rise of Female Chauvinism, where she says the modern female, in the name of feminism, is promoting a raunch culture where she commodifies herself and later say that we are being commodified. See, male chauvinism was bad. We had it. I'm not denying it. We had that patriarchal male chauvinistic idea. But the counter to it is not female chauvinism. We need to have some kind of a sensible, balanced middle ground.
Balanced society.
That balanced middle ground should be there.
Usually what tends to happen, can I just finish quickly? Sure, what tends to happen in such a case is that the pendulum tends to swing the other way, correct? Eventually balance is achieved. But if we come at each other at loggerheads, if we can't have a discussion with each other from opposing points of view, all of us, then we'll never get ahead, no? Then we'll just be arguing. How does a culture move forward? That's what we all need to think about.
Quickly.
When you look at any matrimony ad and you see gori ladki chahiye, beautiful looking girl required for a man, that is not objectification, by the way. It becomes objectification only when she talks about her desires. I think that's hypocrisy, and I protest. I protest against that. I'm sorry.
No one
Whether,
is condoning.
an
Of course,
actress
objectification is wrong,
there.
and it
Yeah,
should
and
not
it
happen.
is wrong.
Of course,
Yeah.
item number should not be there,
Yeah.
and of course, people should not pay for those item numbers. Yes, perfect.
Correct. Let's
But
move on.
who is stopping the society to become a little more open and begin to talk about sexuality, talk about ambitions, talk about aspirations, and talk about life?
Rahul says
who is
that
stopping you
disrupts
to do that?
the order of things, the social order of things. Rahul, who gets to decide whether the order should be disrupted or not? Women should form half of our nation. So why do you get to decide?
See, two things. One, we agree that male and female have their own sexualities. See, we disagree with the premise, or we rather agree that there should be male-female equality, but along with that, there is gender diversity. For example, as late as 2007, Luann Brizendine, she is a neuropsychiatrist. She went on to write a great book called Female Brain, where she points out the nature of sexuality in female and male are different. So we should understand the
How
context.
different?
And
Men are more sexual, women
no,
aren't.
yeah, she goes on the same premise where men are more sexual outside the cultural framework, or men are less monogamous. Comparison to men, females are more having a cultural framework, and this is not only because of culture, this is a brain inculcation, she says. And many studies have proven that the sexual orientation is different.
So if it's
we
an
shouldn't close our
inculcation,
eyes
it can
to
be
science
changed.
in the name of ideology. We shouldn't close our eyes to science in the name of a liberal ideology where, see, right now what the feminists are doing is they are overcompensating the ills of the past. But that doesn't mean in the modern age vulgarity is the solution.
Why do you say this is vulgarity? If we're making
don't
a film
understand
about
this.
women,
For example, I'll give you a classic
vulgar.
example from US so that it doesn't disturb India. The Gossip Girl, where a particular girl was being shown as having a threesome in the American media, had a huge outcry from the parent organization there, from the church there. The girl was hardly 16. And this can also be saying that she is experimenting with herself.
I mean,
she is having
these are examples. I'm just
This is an
simply
example from
talking
US.
about a woman walking up to her husband and saying, "My dear, you do not know how to have sex. You do not satisfy me. I don't think, you have learnt about it. You need to learn more. Can you do that conversation? Can you have that conversation?
You know what? I interviewed
As simple as that.
approximately 1,000 women in the process of writing my book, and at least 70 to 80% of the Indian married audience that I interviewed had the same problem. They could not just tell their husbands that I don't like it the way you do it.
I did that.
You did fantastic. I mean, you are my idol. But this is what I want.
Hold on. We have somebody who was just speaking up in the audience saying you did that. So tell us your story.
I got married very early, at the age of 20.
Arranged marriage, love marriage?
Yeah, arrangement is, of course. I am coming from a Bengali Brahmin family. We are 2 sisters, so I am the younger one. I was little bit different out of box. So my dad is saying, "Uski shadi jaldi kar do." So meri shadi jaldi kar diya.
Because that is often a solution.
That's a solution for the parents, Indian parents. Ki solution is shadi kar do, ghar se nikalo, ab dusre ke upar dal do. So my husband was very shy and very sophisticated, good person. पर वही है कि मेरे में इतना एनर्जी नहीं है. So one day I told him that मेरा चल नहीं रहा है, ये शादी हो गया, बच्चा हो गया, नौकरी पे जाओ, आओ, घर का काम करो, and मैं रह नहीं पा रही हूँ. Then I told him मैं रह नहीं पा रही आपसे, अब डिवोर्स ले लेते हैं.
You had a child and you said you wanted to divorce in those days.
Those days. So I
and you had the support of your parents?
No support. We are support like here. My father has got his own house. That's a support only. I used to work hard and I used to earn money also.
And your child.
Yeah.
Okay.
The first day से मेरा बेटा ड्यूक जो first day से मैंने उसका admission कराया, then college, now he's working, and not a single day my husband was there with me. As a woman, everybody has something from the childhood कि मेरा ऐसा होना चाहिए, fantasy ऐसा होना चाहिए. So you need somebody. Being alone, it's very difficult. First thing, you are always irritated. If your love is not inside you, you are very tough. Till today, I'm 51 years old. Still, I always think somebody should there. Now I am thinking, let's change the partner. Why not try a woman? See,
All right.
I have seen half life.
So you have a son now, right? How does your son deal with your personality like this and your desires, and you're being so open about it? Because when it comes to Indian children, boys and girls, we have different rules for them, right? If boys are allowed to be more sexually experimental, to have curiosity, if you find a young boy watching porn or masturbating, we'd say, chalo, ladka hai, beta hai, whatever, boys will be boys. But not so for girls.
My son is my friend. मैं विडो हुई, चुपचाप बैल्कनी में बैठी तो आया मम्मी, आप शादी कर लो, लड़का लड़की मुझे कोई ऑब्जेक्शन नहीं.
How old was he?
Now he is 24. आप शादी कर लो. I have no problem. I'm supporting you. I'm behind you. So then I stay with a woman also for a year after his, and my son was supporting like anything.